Hello, Black Creative Healing fam. Natasha here. Adenike and I are excited to finally be sharing with y'all episode 501 that we promised at the end of 2024 and then did not release. We'll tell you why in just a moment. But we're also excited to be releasing this episode as both video and audio, so you can listen to it on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as view us in the conversation on YouTube. And as I was preparing to put all that together, sort of as an homage to our video blog days, having this episode be released this way, I realized, oh, we've never made a music video for our theme song. And what would that even be? And so I started to sift through old photos and video footage from like 5+ years ago, because we're celebrating 5 years of Black Creative Healing as a podcast. I don't know if you know that. This summer marks 5 years. We started in June of 2020. But the video blog days go back to 2019. So looking at photos of when my 6-year-old was the same age as our 18-month-old is now, like, so much life has happened in that time and so much work too. Like, shout out to Adenike and I circa 2019, 2020. And, as my spouse was saying, looking at the videos and the footage that I was pulling together, we have not stopped. Like, even when we've been quiet below or above the surface, we ain't stopped moving. So shout out to us and shout out to y'all for like sticking with us through all that time. Like, if you remember when some of these things dropped that you're about to see in our little music video slideshow here, as the theme song plays, like, just take a moment and like check back in with like, what was I doing at that time in my life, and like celebrate yourself a little bit as we celebrate how much growth has occurred between the beginning of the Black Creative Healing journey and where we are right now in this moment with you. All right, here we go.
Find what you need.
Find hope.
Find what feeds you.
Find energy.
Find what you need.
Find art.
Let's heal together.
Find love.
Find what you need. Find what feeds you. Find what you need. Let's heal together.
Find hope. Find energy. Find art. Find love.
Welcome to Black Creative Healing, a space for radical conversation, mindful collaboration, and holistic visioning centering Black communities. I'm Adenike Webb.
And I'm Natasha Thomas. We are your hosts, your co-curators, your co-conspirators, your conversational doulas, and fellow travelers on this journey. We got there.
That worked.
That works. I remember this only because I was recently on our website doing updates. So I saw it very recently and was like, oh yeah, remember that
How
time?
does that start?
I was just thinking about how we talked about wanting to like revive the podcast a little bit. And I'm also wanting to like have stuff parallel posted on YouTube too.
Okay.
And the sort of dangling conversation that we teased for season 5 and then didn't actually release was, yeah, we put out a little teaser that was like, it set up this whole conversation about what does it mean to center Black creative healing and work with non-Black people.
Oh, Was that
Yeah, we said it more
like a
eloquently than
year
that.
ago, a year and a
Yeah,
half?
that was like a year ago. And I think my answer has gotten more refined since then. And so yeah, we never aired that episode because I was like, I don't actually, it's not that I wouldn't stand behind anything I said a year ago. It's just,
Hmm.
I didn't know what I didn't know
Right, right, right,
about
right.
how complex that can get. So I don't even know if we want to try to touch that question now or like, yeah, like what are the challenges? What are the nuances of working multiracially in a way that centers the experiences of folks from the African diaspora?
It's I think it is relevant because
Yeah, some of it's in the
in the
book.
yeah, and in the current climate, political climate we find ourselves in,
Hmm.
like everybody not white is decentered for sure, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I've been thinking it's important to me
Mm.
to to keep my sanity, to be proactive about building,
Mm.
like building up the people, communities, and places, investing in those things that matter to me,
Hmm.
and not trying to get distracted in despair, overwhelmed by all the chaos happening there. And I think of it as multiple communities that I'm a part of. So one community is, if you want to be general, the
Mm.
Black community, and
Hmm.
one avenue for engaging with the Black community is this through Black creative healing. So
Hmm.
doing these intentional things of supporting Black creatives, bringing people together to do co-works, having our social hours, and
Yeah.
having, like our when we had our online retreat or other sorts of things like that. Cool. And
Like
even
direct
within that,
support,
like, huh?
like direct support to Black creatives.
Yeah, but I'm also a part of like multiracial communities. Like just
Hmm.
thinking where I work, there are
Hmm.
people of indigenous descent, European descent, Asian descent, Some people are US born, some people are foreign, but that community matters to me too because I I value the work I do. I value the people who come in here. So I want to
Mm.
pour into that as well. And
Yeah.
it's there might be some crossover between the what I do with Black Creative Healing and what I do at work. But some of the language might be different, some of the approaches, the focus, that kind of thing can be different. And then just even in my neighborhood, like it's funny, I didn't tell you this, but like one day I went for a walk, and as I was getting back to my house, this interracial couple was just walking on the other side of the street.
Mm.
I was a Black guy, white girl. And I ran across it. I said, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Please don't think I'm weird. But I live here, and I pointed to my house and I said, I just been wondering, do you know where the other Black people are? And and he's like, I got you. And as he was pointing out where all the people live.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't mean to be weird. He's like, no, no, I get it. I get it. And so like I think they live like a two streets down or something like that.
Hmm.
But but I'm not like my immediate neighbors I have connection with, but I won't even say it's always like consistent or whatever. But I feel like in this community that I live in, it's a
Mm.
different kind of building into as I have capacity and welcoming people in. So
Yeah.
I feel like it all depends on where you find yourself and what you need to do. And you're right, there are complexities and nuances to doing that, like to
Yeah.
working, to centering Blackness and uplifting Blackness, even in multiracial spaces. You
Yeah,
know.
because sometimes it's a matter of pouring in, like we've talked about the events that we host and how we're
Mhm.
prioritizing, like making our Black only spaces free or pay what you can as much as possible so that they're constantly accessible for Black folks.
Mhm.
And that is made possible by donations to the Patreon or direct to us. And so if there are like non-Black folks that are like, I want to help, but I'm not Black,
Mhm.
that's one way you can help. Is pouring
Absolutely.
into those spaces to enable us to keep supporting. Another way, since we've been like promoting the one-to-one offerings, like the bookings, my calendar being open, that I've seen is non-Black folks amplifying those
Mhm.
posts, and that's incredibly valuable. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that like you can work directly with us too. Like we do supervision,
Yep.
we
Yep.
do presentations. You can bring us into your institutions, hire us. Like that's
Absolutely.
another way to support Black creative healing is
Absolutely.
hire us. Like I've been thinking about this like little YouTube short that I was wondering about doing myself, and maybe I'll just like say it here and then I can cut it into a YouTube short. Is like you don't have to be a Black person to work with Black creative healing. You just have to be willing to be held accountable by one. Like that's
Mm,
it.
mm.
Just like read the descriptions of our spaces and choose the one that is appropriate for you and just be ready for us to hold you accountable. That's it.
And I've had I've had a love-hate relationship with the word accountability,
I
especially when I was a lot
know
younger.
it's hard.
It's because I think sometimes I put a connotation of judgment with
Yeah,
accountability.
yeah.
That, if I don't measure up to or I don't meet whatever I said I will meet, then I'm gonna get smacked on the hand and pushed out or
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Yeah,
But I think, people coming with compassion towards that is different.
yeah.
Say like my sister and I might be accountability buddies for something.
Hmm.
I'm never going to be like, you suck, Sala. Like, why did you do like how come you no, and
Yeah,
she's never done that to me. She
yeah.
might say, like, oh, this is the fifth time in a row something has not happened. What is going on with you? You
Right
know?
there it is. Because that's the thing that, like, so this has come up in my like contract work is like, what does accountability mean to Black folks? Like, what does it mean for non-Black folks to hold Black people accountable? Like, that's an awkward, uncomfortable place too, because inside
Mm-hmm.
of our bodies, there's all of this like historical, like
Yep, yep, yep.
shame and just it's not a straightforward thing to try and hold Black folks accountable for anything. It's a very nuanced place. But what you just said about like how your sister would do it for you, it's to
Mm-hmm.
recognize a pattern, to say this thing keeps happening. How can we fix this together? Like how can we address
Mm-hmm.
that? Like I love you, I care about you, so I want to name this thing that I'm seeing. How can we take care of this? I think that's an incredibly
Absolutely.
valuable thing for like non-Black folks to recognize is that like when a Black person has a response to you like calling them out or whatever, that's not necessarily like I can't speak for every person, but for me, I know that sometimes my reaction to that can be a little bit intense emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't mean that I'm trying to skirt accountability. It just means there's a lot of historical shit in here, and for you to have awareness of that
Mm-hmm.
means that you come to me from a place of like I care about you. We're in this work together. I care about what we're trying to do. Here's a pattern I'm seeing. Let's figure this out,
Right.
as a team.
Yeah, so one of the things I've been playing with, and I feel like there's a book in there somewhere,
Mm,
is this framework I've been using. I call it pulling up a chair.
mm,
And chair is an acronym. It's compassionate curiosity, humility, authenticity, integrity, and respect.
mm,
And so I feel like every day for the past year now, before I start my work day, it's almost like a little kind of affirmation mantra type thing. I'll say, may I pull up a chair in everything I do today for myself? So
mm,
that meaning like if I have to reflect on what I did or did not do, may I bring compassion and curiosity into
yeah.
looking at that? May I act with integrity? May I respect my own boundaries and capacity as I look at that? And may I pull up a chair for people with whom I engage? So like if I'm dealing with, students at work and there's been a challenge, can I put down my you know, reactivity to be
Hmm.
like, can I bring curiosity and compassion into this? What have I not been seeing before because I've been so blinded by how, oh, this is annoying me?
Hmm.
So I've been trying every day, and I feel like part of the accountability piece is to come with compassion, you know? And there's nothing wrong with holding anybody accountable. It's just a human thing. Like if we value relationships and we want our
Yeah.
relationships to be successful, meaningful,
Yeah.
healthy,
Yeah.
we have to hold people accountable because
Yeah.
by virtue of being humans, we can do some dumb shit, right?
Yes.
Whether
Yeah.
intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah.
And if you value the relationship, you hold the person accountable. But you don't
Yes.
hold them with condemnation. You don't hold them with judgment. You hold
Right.
them with passion.
Yeah.
And you have to work to understand that like you just said, because of historical, intergenerational sorts of race-based trauma and other things, when you hold a Black person accountable, a lot of stuff can come up, especially if you historically belong to a race with privilege.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that does not mean to shy away from
Right.
compassion or to
Right.
shy away from accountability. It
Hmm.
means you now have to bring humility as well into this
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
and respect the other person's
Yeah.
process and be persistent. Like give that,
Hmm.
if you value the relationship, you work with it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I think about how much of like what you described and even like the chair acronym, like that process is built out of your own like diasporic understanding, right? Like there's ancestral knowledge inside of you that
Mm-hmm,
like led
mm-hmm,
to you developing that framework and applying it to your life. And so I think that's part of the like Black creative healing process as well, is that like each of us as facilitators, co-curators, whatever, role we're holding inside of
mm-hmm,
this work in the moment is influenced by our ancestral knowledges and how they play out in the world around us. And we're translating that in a way into
mm-hmm,
this like current context and applying it in ways that are sort of uniquely suited to whoever we're working with so that they can then
mm-hmm.
carry it forward. And what I hope the result is that you have more people out in the world, Black and non-Black, doing their own healing work on
Exactly.
themselves, in community, in such a way that continues to further the love and existence of Black people. Like
Mm-hmm,
that's it.
mm-hmm,
Like I'm thinking about this video that was circulating a while ago about like a white person who had come to have this way of explaining to people why Black Lives Matter was not a controversial statement. And they talked about it in the framework of like children. If your child comes up to you and says, "Do you love me?" To
mm-hmm.
say, "Well, I love all my kids," is not the same as saying, "Yes, I love you." And so
Precisely.
it's like we're
Mm.
just trying to create a world where more Black people feel loved and able to continue existing. Like that's it. So it's like whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
if you can find a way to make that happen, more Black people feeling loved and more existing, then you are operating within a context that we can work with as Black creative healing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that when you start to do that, you
Hmm.
know, commit to engaging in the world in a way that more Black people feel valued and safe, you end up making it safe and wonderful other people, yourself too. It's not
Right?
just for Black
Everybody
people.
benefits.
you know
Yeah.
like and that's a mindset across multiple spaces where
Hmm.
minoritized people have been advocating for rights and justice. It's not just, oh, you're going to help this group and this group is the only one that benefits. But
Right.
when you start addressing the barriers, addressing the inequities that are present for one group, guess what, it starts to make things easier for others.
Yeah.
Case example, like something, something every day that you don't even probably realize,
Hmm.
going into a building using the wheelchair ramp,
Hmm.
you know, whether you are nursing a sprained ankle, so you don't want to put too much pressure by going up the steps, or you have a cartload of supplies that you have to wheel and it's going to be so, challenging to take
Hmm.
it up the steps, or you need to run and it's easier for you to run in quickly up that because you're late rather than run up the steps. You're benefiting from what people did to allow wheelchair users access to space,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
you do it
That's
for
universal
one, you
design
end
in
up doing it
practice,
for
right?
all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean one is more important or less than the other. I
Hmm.
don't think by centering Black dignity and humanity, we
Mm.
are saying there's none elsewhere.
Right, which is like so annoying that we have to keep clarifying that.
It gets us to it's I think it primes us to recognize everyone's value,
Mm.
everyone's humanity in
Yeah.
all situations. So
Yeah.
it's like,
It's this
this
weird.
this is an entry point.
Yeah, everything is spirals, right? Like I remember the first time that an activist elder told me we have to be tolerant even of intolerance. And I was like, "Excuse me?" Like I was so like I remember being so angry because it was something that did not make sense to me. And it's still, I do still think there is a line there. Like there's a point at which tolerance is a crutch of
Hmm,
some
hmm.
kind, But like coming around to the point where I am now, I can see the nuance inside of it that is like, we can't just be popping off all the time. There has to be like
Right.
strategy to how we engage
Yes.
with people, right? And sometimes the strategy is to be like, all right, let me soften just a little bit so that I can help you feel comfortable enough to understand what I'm trying to say. You know? And like I
But
can
it's
see
all
that
context
nuance.
based. It's all
Huh?
context based,
It's all
you know?
context based. Yes, because that's the thing is that sometimes I'm the person to do that and sometimes I am not.
Hmm.
I am not the person to be soft for everybody in this moment.
And it
Like
all depends
sometimes
on
I
what
need
you
to
have
send you somewhere
capacity
else.
for, you know? Like if
Yeah.
I have had my 8 hours of sleep, I've had my vitamins, I ate my Wheaties, and
Hmm.
I've done my meditation, I'm in a great mood. I probably can sit down and invest hours that day in
Right?
like explaining and all these other things. But
Yeah.
catch me on a day when it's been, challenge after challenge after challenge, then
Mhm.
I may not have the capacity to do that.
Right? And I'm not going to be receptive to somebody telling me we have to be tolerant. You know, the thing I feel that if I were to say anything that's like we have to anything, it's that we need all of it. We need the agitators. We need the people who are
Hmm.
going to pop
Hmm.
off half-cocked. Like sometimes that's valuable, you know? Like it takes
Precisely.
all kinds of effort in order to suffocate the beast of capitalism.
Yeah, I think Rhiannon Giddens kind of mentioned that in a way with a recent post I saw on her
Yeah.
Facebook page. She had was talking about how she had pulled her concerts from the Kennedy Center, but that
Yeah.
there were other Black artists, one of whom I don't want to mispronounce or name the person. I think it might have been Yaz, somebody, but anyways,
Mm.
but a couple like Rihanna had been in conversation with a couple others who are like, well, there's so many people who are depending on this show as part of their livelihood that I can't not have it. And then like those people were entering into a particular kind of dialogue with the folks at the Kennedy Center. And Rhiannon was practicing humility to be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's not one way to do it. This is how they're approaching it, and they're having these intentional dialogues to see what makes sense, and then publicizing those dialogues for people to understand what's happening.
Mm.
And like Rhiannon had the ability to be like, I'm not going to suffer by pulling my concert from here, but other people are dependent on this happening for that because of their context, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're right, we need everybody. Like I keep coming back to flowers, even though I'm not a big gardener, but I'm getting more into gardening.
Yeah.
Nobody says, "Oh, I wish this daffodil was a rose," or
Mm.
or I only want, there should only be hibiscus in the world. Why isn't this chrysanthemum a lily?"
Yeah.
Nobody questions that, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody sees the value that in the summer you have these roses, in the
Hmm.
fall you have these chrysanthemums, you know? It's at the beginning of spring you have the daffodils. Nobody questions,
Yeah.
nobody argues, people just accept, right?
Yeah.
And they
To
see
everything
value in all of
season.
it. So we need the agitators. The way I see it, we need the destroyers who are dismantling the stuff that is no longer serving us. We need the
Hmm.
builders who are going to come in and put in the new things. But for all
Hmm.
of that, we need the visionaries to be present, the people who are having the dreams of what it looks like to dismantle, and then people dreaming what it looks like to rebuild. The people who are sending the supplies so we can
Yeah.
dismantle and
Yeah.
build. The people who are sending sustenance for the builders and the dismantlers and the dreamers, like the people who
Right.
are tending to the ones who've been
Yeah.
burned, so to speak, by those actions. So like we need everybody.
Yes, yeah. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking of Deepa Ayers defining social roles in times of change, like that graphic. And I'm also thinking in our conversation about accountability, Daria's centered accountability course that I've like amplified on our socials before as like resources for people to check out during this time for sure. But I think that like what we're doing inside of Black Creative Healing is we are the space for the healers and the builders and the people who are wanting to like vision and dream. Like we are the space for y'all to do that work. And we are also the space for those folks who maybe are disruptors, who are agitators, like for y'all to recenter, like to come get
Absolutely.
sustenance and be refueled and be able to go back out. Like we're trying to provide the service to help people expand their own healing capacity in their communities.
Yeah, we're trying to help people thrive.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
trying to help people thrive.
Yeah, that's it. And that's, something that we're all on this boat together. We're all on this planet together. We have to be able to work together. And so that kind of like cycles back around to the whole like doing this work in an interracial context. Like it's not just that we have the capacity to work with non-Black folks, it's that I think we have to. Like we have to center Black folks in our work, but we also can't at least I can't. Like I feel like I would be doing a disservice like to myself and my communities if I didn't make a point to say we want to work with other folks too, because otherwise like we can't be over isolated.
Right, and you can only get so far
Hmm.
on a thing on your own because like
Hmm.
you want to get all concrete. We currently, currently we can only live on this blue planet,
Right.
right?
Currently, as far as we know.
Currently. And as much as we might want to have our protected, isolated, we only live here spaces, by virtue of being on this blue planet with finite space, our space is going to touch somebody else's space.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know,
So like we can have our enclosed spaces and we live in a world where those spaces are going to bump into other
it's
spaces.
like a house. Like I was once telling my husband about it. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with you having your own room in your house
Yeah.
and your sisters having your own room in your house. And there are times
Yeah.
when you don't want your sisters in your
Right?
room, right?
Yeah, like we
And there
will
are times when
always
your
have
sisters
black
don't,
only spaces.
and there are times when your sisters didn't want you in their room,
Hmm.
but y'all shared the house, right?
Yes.
And so
Yep.
y'all had equal care and like a responsibility. Like y'all had to take out the garbage, y'all had to
Hmm.
vacuum the floors, because to keep the house together, So yeah, we have our own spaces, but we
Hmm.
do all live in this one house. And there
Yeah.
are times when we're gonna have to work together to be like, look, before the house burns down, you know,
Hmm.
we're going
Hmm.
to come out of our room having done what we need to do to
Yeah.
fortify ourselves. And
Yep.
you hopefully having done what you need to do to fortify yourself. Now
Yeah.
we can come out and work on the house together.
Right. Right. Like that's where the strategy comes in. That's what we need to do when people come into the house. So this, I guess, this episode or whatever this is that we're recording is an invitation to get in the house. Like
Absolutely.
books are not going to be open for long. We're not going to be, like the level of like posting and public engagement that's happening right now is not going to happen forever. Our pattern is not sustaining this. Like
Mm-mm.
we go through cycles where we are more public and less public. And this is an opportunity where the porch is open, the front
Yeah.
door is even ajar. Like, come on in before we shut them doors for who knows how long.
Yeah. Find your room in the house.
Mind your room in the house. Totally.
Black Creative Healing is a platform dedicated to radical conversation, mindful collaboration, and holistic visioning centering Black communities.
Conversations and arts-based collaborations are facilitated by Natasha Thomas and Adenike Webb in community partnership with the Black Music Therapy Network, Incorporated.
We wish to extend our thanks to the Black Music Therapy Network for their input and support with the creation and the promotion of these episodes, as well as all our supporters on Anchor and Patreon and followers on social media who help amplify our work and financially contribute to services for episode transcribing and other administrative needs.
You can find links to past collaborations as well as current episodes, contact details, and other information by visiting our website, www.blackcreativehealing.com.